Yes, guys. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our today's class. As you know, this is our fourth lesson. Remember to start with lesson number one, lesson number two, lesson number three, and lesson number four. This is lesson number four. So you have to start by watching video number one, video number two, number three, and number four. And remember, so if it's your first time, remember to go through all those 10 videos in order for you to be certified, right? And if you got some difficulties, you can contact me. My email address is given. You can check the link below, and you can also check my WhatsApp number and WhatsApp me, right? So in order to get a registration from Cisco, you need to send your full name and your email address, right? Without wasting my time, today we are going to carry on. Remember, we've been talking about switches, and today we are going to carry on. We are going to see some of the basic configurations that you can do with switches. Remember, as I said, Cisco switches are very, very expensive. Some of them can go to 200, 1,000 rand. So if it's maybe you are using dollars, so some of the switches can go like up to 10,000 to $20,000. So you see how those switches are very, very expensive. That's why companies don't want non-certified people to access those switches. So only certified person will be able to use those switches, right? And most of the companies, big companies, runs on Cisco devices. Banks, uh, governments, big corporations runs on Cisco devices. So it's very important for you to know all those configurations. So wherever you are, you got your laptop, make sure that you are following whatever that I'm doing step by step, right? So I'm starting from scratch. So what we are going to be doing, uh, let me go straight to the simulator and we are going to start practicing. Okay, let me try first to share my screen. Screen, okay, entire screen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna need a switch. So what does it mean? You go to the shop, you buy a switch, right? So you drag and drop your switch here. So this is your switch. This switch, we call it the 2950 series. If you go to the internet, you ask for Cisco switch or just type a 2950 switch. You can see them here. Those are the 2950 series, right? Let's just see how those particular switch looks like. So you can see here, right? So very easy. Yes, so you can check them from here. Yeah, so now when you buy your switch, you need now to configure this particular switch. Remember, the switch is very complicated and you need to listen to it. So what you're gonna do now, you're gonna have your laptop or your computer, right? It can be a desktop. So you drag and drop a laptop, right? When you drag and drop a laptop, what you need now a console cable. We spoke about a console cable. You need to buy a console cable. Let's go to the internet. We can see how the console cable looks like. Console cable. Usually it's a blue cable, right? This is what we call a console cable. Let me look for some of the pictures so that we can see it again properly. Yeah, so you can see this is what we call a console cable, all right? So you go to connections, you just click once, you go to console cable, and you go to your laptop. Now you're gonna take that console cable, you go to your laptop or your desktop, Your desktop must have what we call a serial port, right? Your laptop must have a serial port. If you don't have a serial port, you are going to use an adapter. So serial to USB, you need an adapter, right? You plug to the serial port and you go to your switch. From your switch, you must click on the console port. And this is where you are going to plug the console cable, right? If you got like difficulties, let me show you the serial port, how the serial port looks like. They are very old. Yeah, so those are the serial ports, right? You can see them here. So if you have a computer, like your desktop or your laptop with this type of a port, we call it a serial port. This is where you are going to plug. But if you don't have, you can use an adapter. Serial port to USB, right? You can use an adapter. Those are the adapters that you can use, right? And you go to your switch, you plug. Okay, let's see the console port from the switch. Right? Yeah, you can see the console port like here. So those are the console ports. The console port, it's always blue, right? And it's written. Let me show you one of my switch that I have here. I can show you how the console port looks like. Yes, you can see here. Let me first make, I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So this is a console port, this one. It's a console port. So this is where you are going to plug, right? Yes. So very easy. You got your switch, you power it on, you look for the console cable, you plug to your computer, and you plug to the switch, right? Now, guys, remember that your switch doesn't have a screen. There is no way you can see what is there on the switch, like inside. There's no way because there is no screen. That's why we need a computer, right? Now, from that computer, we need a special software. Your laptop, your computer must have a special software, right? Like in order for you now to view the configurations from your switch. So for you to view now those configurations from your laptop, from your computer, you need a piece of software. That software, we call it a terminal, right? So you can see it here when you go to my documents here. Okay, so you need a terminal emulation software. So this is what you're gonna need. You need a terminal emulation software. You as a specialist, you as a network engineer, you need to have it like on your laptop. And there are different ones. You can download this one party, you can download the TerraTime, or you can download Hyper Terminal, right? So you need a console cable, you need a terminal emulation software like those three. You can download one of them and you are done, right? So when you have that software, so after plugging the cable, you need only just to load it. You need just to start it. You start your TerraTem and you click on start, straight it will bring you to the configurations, right? But slowly by slowly, guys, you are going to master all those concepts. Remember, it's your first network class for junior technicians. When you are going to move to middle level to CCNA 2, more you are moving, more you become better, right? So now, let's go here. So you click on your laptop, right? You go to desktop. Now you go to what? You go to terminal, right? So because it's a simulator, so it's showing you that you need a terminal like on your laptop and you have to start it. Yes. Now we are here, right? I don't know if it's gonna be big, so if you guys you can see. I'm sure that you can see, or I can try to, okay. Yes, guys, now from here, right, what you are going to do, I'm going to show you the list of comments that we are going to use, right? They are almost 12 for today's lesson. This part, you can even print it, you put it in front of your door or somewhere where you are living, those 12 comments, because those are the basics for you to master all the skills that we are going to talk about, right? So the first comment when you access the switch is what we call the enable. This comment will allow you to move to what? To privilege mode, right? So you must type first what? The enable, and this comment will allow you to move to the privilege mode. A switch has different modes, right? You need to be able to identify which mode are you, right? A switch has different modes. You have to know which mode you are, because there are some of the comments that cannot work in specific modes. So you have to know like in which mode am I, right? For now, we are in user mode. So here we call it a user mode. You can see the symbol superior, right? User mode. So the command is enable. You type the first command and you press like enter, right? You can see it like here. Okay. So I'm going to share the document. So you type this one, like in order for you to move from user mode to exit mode, for user mode to privilege mode, right? The second command is what? It's configuration or configure terminal. So you go again to your switch, you're gonna type configure terminal and you press enter. Let me repeat again because I know you're still beginner. Guys, when you have a manageable switch, like a Cisco switch, that switch will have different modes, right? So like in different mode, we do have different commands, right? From the first mode, the user mode, we cannot do much. We cannot do many things there because we are from the beginning. You need to tell your switch that you wanna go to the second mode, the second level mode. So you wanna move from the first mode to the second mode. How to do that? The first command is enable. You type enable, you move to the second mode. The second mode, for you to move again from the second mode to the third mode, you type what? Configure terminal, this one, right? Means what? This configure terminal means you are telling the switch, please, can you move me to the configurations part so that I can start my configurations, all right? So step number one, you ask the switch to go to the configuration mode, right? So after the configuration mode, you tell the switch now that you want to start your configuration. So enable, configure terminal, right? Now we are in step number 3. How to change the switch name. You need to be able to change your switch name. Don't use the default name. Maybe you have 100 switches in your company. You must give them specific names, guys, right? So let's say there's a switch here, like in flow number 2, right? Remember, the name that you are giving a switch must reflect the localization, the location. Flow 1, switch 1. Understand? So that you can remember. Remember, guys, there are companies where you can work with thousands of switches. How are you going to locate them, right? So now the comment for changing the name is host name followed by the name of the switch. So you are here, you're going to type host name. You give it a name. you said maybe switch 1, right? Host name switch 1. You press enter. You can see here it's changing here, right? So this is how to change the switch name, right? I'm sure that you can see, yeah. So we spoke about 3 commands: enable, configure terminal, host name, space, the name of your switch, right? Now, what else can you do? You can also do what? You can set like a secret password, right? Guys, most of the time, you need to protect your switch. You need to protect your configurations so that nobody can go to your configurations, right? You need to stop somebody to go to your configurations, right? How are you gonna stop them? By typing this command, like enable space secret space, you put your password. So we are here now, you're gonna type like enable secret, my password 123 8. Understand? So you need to protect your configurations. You don't want somebody to bring its own, like his own cable, like console cable, plug and go to your configurations. You wanna put a password so that when somebody will type enable, they will stop him to carry on. You understand? They will ask him this password. You press enter. So we start with enable, configure terminal, host name, how to change the switch name, and how to give a password to protect your configuration. Now we're gonna move number 5, line console space 0. What does it mean here, guys? Let me just put the whole word. I don't want it to be. Guys, remember, you have a console port. That console port, this one, this console port, this one, the one that we've been talking about, this port here, you need to protect it. We call it a console port, right? Where you are going to plug your console cable. You need to put a password here so that if somebody brings his own console cable, by plugging here, they will ask his password. Maybe you are chilling by the restaurant. Somebody can enter like in your building, go to the switches, take his own console cable and come and plug here, right? They will ask him what? A password. So you need to set up a password, right? So line console, we're gonna put a password here. Now, how to put that password? You must tell your switch line space console space 0, right? So how to give like a password to your console port? So you're gonna start by, you say line space console 0. So just say it like this. So you are telling the switch that I wanna go to line console 0. You press enter and followed by what? You're gonna say like password, you put your password and you say login. Login because you want a message to pop up to ask the user to punch the password. So if there is no login, they won't gonna ask. That message won't gonna pop up. So you come here, you're gonna say that password, maybe your password is Cisco 123 8, and you press what? Like enter, followed by what? Like followed by login, right? And you're gonna say login, right? So this is how to set up a password. So guys, remember, as I said, like a switch will have different modes. You have to know how to move between mode. The first mode is a user mode. How you gonna know that you are in user mode? By seeing that symbol superior. But don't worry about it. How are you going to move from user mode to privilege mode? Enable. You type that enable. It's going to move to the second mode. From the second mode, you're going to ask your switch to bring you the configuration so that you can start. You're gonna type configure terminal. So it's like you are talking with the switch. The configure terminal, it's going to move you to the third mode. Now, the first things you must change your switch name. What is the command? Host name space, you put at the name of the switch. You're going to move again. What you need to do, you need to protect your configurations from the switch, right? How are you going to protect your configurations? You need to type enable space secret, you put the password, right? And when you are done now, guys, we spoke about your console port, the port that allows you to talk to the switch, right? That port required a password, right? Why you need a password? Because most of the time, maybe people that you are working with, maybe like someone from your company will want to change the configurations from the switch, right? Now you have to stop those guys by putting your password. How to punch that password? You need to follow the steps. Line space, console space 0, password, you put your password and you say login, right? So now we are on number 8, interface VLAN space 1. Guys, remember that you can configure a switch physically or remotely. So I can configure my switch physically by plugging the cable, or I can configure it via distance, via the internet maybe. Maybe I'm sitting at home. I can access my switch and configure it from home, from another country. But for me to be like able to access my switch, I need to give it an IP address. My switch must have an IP address, because if my switch has an IP address, I can access it from distance. You understand? But that IP, you are going to give it not to a physical port, but to a virtual port, because a switch doesn't use IP addresses. You need to use a virtual port, right? So that why you must type like interface VLAN space 1 means that you want to give the IP to that interface. Like in order for you to be able to configure your switch remotely, right? So you go here, the interface, VLAN 1, IP address, you're gonna punch your IP, right? And followed by the subnet mask. For now, don't worry about the IPs. You are going to master them. For now, just punch what I'm typing here, right? Don't worry. Press enter. Understand? So this is how to give a switch an IP address. This IP you are giving to a virtual port, because a switch doesn't use IP addresses. For you to give it an IP, you must use a virtual port, the VLAN. Okay, so now we are here on number 10. Guys, you gave your switch a new name. You gave it like a password, like in order to protect your configurations. You protect it against physical access. You gave a password to your console port. What else? You gave it an IP address to the virtual port. Now you need to save your configurations. You need to know how to save your configurations, right? The command is very simple. From number 10, how to save your configurations, right? But yeah, number 10, this no shutdown, it just means we have to bring this interface up, right? Sorry. It's for bringing the interface up. No shut down, right? Means you are putting the interface up, right? Sorry. Now, from number 11, guys, you need to give your switch a default gateway. You need to give your switch like an IP address that will allow it maybe to be connected to the internet, right? Or to be connected to other networks. We call it a default gateway. So how you gonna give it? You just type IP default gateway 192.168.1.1 and you press enter, right? And the last one, guys, it's now how to save your configurations. Whatever that you've been doing, all the configurations must be saved. How to save your configurations? You can use write memory, or you can say copy running configuration startup configurations. But the short one, it's write memory. So you can just say write memory and you say, oh, okay, we need to exit first. We have to come out. You can see it gave to me like error. You come out and you say write memory. Yes. So this is how to save. So guys, this is the end of the exercise, right? Let me resume again, guys. Let me first come out from yeah. Stop sharing. Okay. So guys, we are talking about switches. We are talking about how to configure switches, especially manageable switches. As I said, those switches are very expensive, right? So companies cannot allow non-certified person to work with those switches. So if you are not certified, you cannot work with those switches because most of the time when there is a problem, they will phone Cisco and Cisco will ask for your certificate. So that way, when you are learning those devices, you need to be careful because those devices are very, very expensive. So as I said, 200,000 K, $20,000 just for one. So if you make a mistake, means you are killing a 200,000 K device. Understand? But those devices are very easy if you followed your training properly, right? As I said, when you have Cisco switches, step number one, you have that particular switch. You need a console cable, the blue cable. You buy that console cable. When you buy that console cable, you know that from your switch, it's going to have a console port. It's from the switch, it's going to be written very easy. You just take the blue cable, you go to the switch, you plug. After plugging from the switch, your laptop, your desktop must have a serial port, right? So if there is no serial port, you can buy an adapter, USB to serial. But remember, guys, most of the cable now will come with USB, right? Now, after doing the plugging, what you need again, guys, you need a software, right? Your computer, your laptop will require a software. We call it an emulation. We call it a terminal emulation software. So you need a terminal emulation software in order to do what? In order to access the switch, because the switch doesn't have a screen. You need to see whatever that is there on the switch. You need to see them from your laptop. So your laptop must have a terminal emulation software like Teratem, right? So you need to download one of them. So the document is there that I will share. Now, when you access your switch, remember that your switch will come with different modes. You need to know how to move between modes. The first mode when you access, it's a user mode. You cannot do much. We are going to see. When you are from the user mode, you cannot do most of the configurations. You have to move from user mode to a privilege mode by typing which command? Enable. You type that command, it's gonna move to the second mode, the privilege mode. From the privilege modes also, you can only do few things that we are going to see later. But to do the actual configurations, most of the configuration, you must move from privilege mode to what we call a global configurations mode by typing which command? Configure a terminal. Now, when you move now, you are now in from the global configuration mode. What you need now to do, number one, you need to change your switch name. Don't use the default name that comes with the switch. You must change it, right? So how are you going to change it? And for you to change it, you must give always your switch a meaningful name, like a name that will reflect the location. You can have a company with 20 floors, and for those 20 floors, you have 20 switches, right? So maybe one of the switch, you can call it switch 10 floor 10, just to reflect the location of that particular switch, right? So you change your switch name. How to change it? Host name space, you give it a name, your own name, right? When you are done changing the switch name, you need to change what? You need to change, you need to give a password so that nobody can access the configurations of your switch, right? You need a password to stop someone to access the configurations. How to do it? Enable space secret, you put your password, right? So when you secured your configurations, remember guys, again, your switch has that console port. You must stop people to access that console port because anybody can bring his own cable and plug and access the switch and do the configurations. So that console port must have a password. How to do it? It's line space console space 0 password. You give it a password and you say login, right? So it's just a way to secure your console port. Now, when you are done, this is the physical access. So you protect your switch against the physical access. What else you must do? You must also, like, you must give your switch like an IP address. Why an IP address? Because you want to access that switch remotely. You want to access it from your home in order to do some of the configuration. You can be by the restaurant and maybe your company is down. Some of the things are not working. They can phone you. You cannot take your taxi and go to your company. You can fix stuff wherever you are. But how are you going to access the switch from wherever you are to your company? Your switch need an IP address, right? So you need to give that particular switch an IP address. But because switches don't use IP addresses, those ports from the switches actually don't use the IP addresses, you need to give it to a virtual port. How to do it? Interface space VLAN space 1. You said the IP address, you give it that number and the subnet mask, right? And you need to bring it up by saying no shutdown. And the last one is how to save your configurations, guys. For you to save your configurations, you need to exit first and you say write a memory, or you can use a copy running configurations, startup configurations. This is how, guys, those are the basic stuff. There are so many things about switches, right? There are books that talks only about switches. More you know about switches, more you know the configurations. This is how your level also will grow. And you are not obliged to memorize, but for now, you can memorize. But when you are working, you can check from your phone, you can check wherever. But now, because you are learning, you need to practice. You need to do whatever that I'm explaining like to you now. So what you are going to be doing, you have to practice. You are done every time when you are playing with switches, when you are practicing with switches, start from the beginning. Start from like changing the switch name. Start from protecting the configurations. Start from giving a password to your console port. Start by giving an IP address. Start by saving. Don't jump. So it's something that you have to do when you are practicing yourself. This is how, even when you are writing a CV, you can tell your employer, you can tell your boss that, no, I know how to configure switches. I know how to manage switches. So I know how to assign the IP to switches. So I know how to protect switches, like in terms of security and so on. All right. So guys, this is our lesson number 4. Thank you very much. And tomorrow we are going to carry on. Remember, guys, tomorrow be connected, not be connected with me, just at home, wherever you are, be with your laptop. You just contact me via WhatsApp, and we are going to do physical practicals. What does it mean? You are going to have your computer at home, and I'm going to show you some of the things related to networking, and you are going to be in front of your laptop doing them, right? Like in order for you to master whatever that talks about networks when it comes to your computer, where you have to go, where to change the IPs, when there is a problem, like in terms of security, where to go, how to share your stuff, right? So that's going to be the work for tomorrow. Remember to to get your registration. And we do have only 7 days remaining for our first training, CCNA 1, before us moving to CCNA 2. You already registered from the platform. Start learning, and the exams will be activated. You can start even writing the exams at home. And remember, for those who are around Durban, so if you're around Durban, the day for issuing the certificate, before that day, maybe 2 to 3 days before, we are going to organize a practical session. We are going to meet, and we are going to bring our computers, and we are going to create networks. We are going to practice. And after that, we are going to organize another day in order for us to celebrate your achievements. And if you want to move to step number 2 to intermediate level, you can also move and to the professional level. And when you are done with professional level, you can now move, you can choose which area you want to go. You can go now to cybersecurity, or you can go to maybe to administration and so on. So we do have thousands of trainings, but for now, guys, be concentrate on networking, because when you master networking, you can do the rest of the stuff. But if you are weak in networking, the rest of the stuff doesn't have any sense. There is no meaning. There's no meaning for you to say, I'm a cybersecurity specialist, or maybe I'm doing cybersecurity, if you don't know about networking, not by defining, but by doing it. Yes, thank you very much. And let's meet tomorrow.